The Order of the White Heart are righteous defenders of the fragile and the weak. They have taken it upon themselves to shield from harm those loyal to the Imperium who cannot fight for themselves. Where most Imperial forces take to the field and directly engage their foe in combat, the Order of the White Heart instead goes to actively defend planetary populations and Imperial forces in need of aid. Due to their fiercely protective behaviour of the Emperor's livestock, the Order have the means to efficiently intercept any distress call to extended areas in Imperial space. Once in battle, they will be unforgiving towards anyone daring to set foot against the Imperium of Man. The Order of the White Heart was originally founded by Patricia Fuente, a canoness of the Order of the Valorous Heart, and a highly regarded martyr. During mid-M41, her preceptory was called in to establish order in a subsector where a Chaos warlord known as Cobal the Bane led a heretic crusade to break into Imperial space. In the following conflicts, Patricia and her accompanying Hospitalier order were overwhelmed by both the enemy within and the enemy without. As the forces of Chaos were standing on their doorstep, the sisters tried to little avail to remain organised. To keep her forces united against a common foe, the canoness gathered the scattered orders under a new banner, the one of the White Heart. Patricia led her newly formed force into war once more, with great prosperity. In honour, the two battle forces that had come to form the new order, the Order Militant of the Valorous Heart and the Hospitalier Order of the White Blade, the new order attained its name and heraldry. Patricia's campaign came to a head during a Chaos incursion on the planet of Amora. With the Adeptus Astartes and the Imperial Navy preoccupied with similar incursions, and the Imperial Guard not having time to mobilise itself, the sisters stood as the main bulwark against the invasion. Alone and outnumbered, Patricia sent out a distress call, and would hold her ground with most of their fleet, while a few of her sisters moved planetside to fortify. With nothing but the local defence fleet and her own small fleet, the sisters held fast against the assault, but with the horrendous doubt that it was not going to be enough. Desperate to inflict meaningful losses to the enemy, Patricia knew that the only way to buy time would be to cut off the head of the snake. Having ion cannons target Cobal's heretical flagship, the Star Swallower, Patricia used her ship's teleportarium to board the enemy vessel, appearing on the command bridge leading a squad of veteran Celestians. Following the initial skirmish, most of the Chaos Bridge was ablaze, as many Marines as well as sisters had successively fell. Patricia, managing to reach halfway through the ship, fought Lord Cobal himself. A terrible clash of blades followed, Patricia's own power sword locking with a twisted demonic spear granted to Cobal by Grandfather Nurgle. The two traded blows amidst the flames for what seemed like hours, until the Lord managed to gain an opening by willingly taking a hit from Patricia's power sword, taking advantage of its painless nature, and shooting the canoness while her sword was still buried into his flesh. Just as the canoness slumped to the ground and all hope seemed lost, a feat so amazing occurred that it is yet to be surpassed by any member of the Order, the miracle of Patricia. According to reports from the sisters still alive on board the ship, an intense light burst forth from the canoness's seemingly dead body. Holy words of an uncorruptible tongue echoed from her lips in an ethereal tone as she got back to her feet. What exact words she uttered changes from report to report, as supposedly each sister heard a different litany spoken to her, but each one claiming it to be the most inspiring words they had ever heard. The Chaos Lord shot it again, but realised that the bolts were ineffective. He thusly attempted to strike her down a second time, with a firm thrust from his spear, only to find its blade caught in the canoness's steely grip. Then, with a roar that caused all surviving heretics to cover their ears in absolute horror, Patricia crushed the corrupted metal she held in her grip, and proceeded to unleash a series of powerful blows upon the Lord, not with her weapon, but with her bare fists. Each blow punctured his twisted armour like it was made of frail insects. However, his venomous ichor burned the canoness's hands upon contact, searing them black, but she continued to strike as if the sensation of pain had entirely left her body. As a final devastating strike to the utterly baffled Chaos Lord, she struck him with a blow of such force that he was sent soaring through the air, finally making a violent crash landing into the bulkhead of his own ship, firmly embedded into its metal. Patricia then gave the order for the sisters to return to their ship, with none of them daring to question her. The sisters grabbed their fallen and teleported themselves back to safety. As soon as they arrived, the canoness stepped forward, turned to her soldiers, and as an ultimate order to her troops, demanded to continue the battle with their allies, while keeping as many civilians involved within the Hive City safe before crumpling to the ground lifeless. The bolt in her head had remained undetonated, but embedded in her brain. Her hands were shattered, blackened and bloody, while her arms had ripped themselves apart. The surviving sisters, saddened but grateful, knelt in respect before her lifeless body, convinced that Patricia's last act to be a manifestation of the God Emperor himself, and indebted to her bold and selfless final achievement. Outside of Teleportorium, the Canonesses' plan to disrupt the fleet had worked. Though the Chaos command structure could handle the loss of their leader on a ship-to-ship level, they were left bickering amongst themselves, causing disorganization amongst the ranks. Patricia's sisters proceeded to fulfill their ultimate order with savage determination rarely seen even within the ranks of the Sororitas, inspiring the rest of Imperial forces to stand against the indomitable threat. The battle inexorably continued until reinforcements from the nearest Astartes chapter and subsector's navy arrived, only to find that their help was no longer required. The sisters and their allies had in the end managed to push back the disoriented Chaos incursion, and it was now up to the rest to finish them off. Since that day, the Sisters of the Order of the White Heart kept Patricia as their highest paragon, and it is in her name that each successor Canoness must take up as part of a title. There have been 5 others to take upon this title since the inception of the Order, with the current Canoness being the 6th to take her place. They still live up to the final words of their martyr, and in their warfare doctrines, furious protection and preservation of Imperial populations, as well as providing aid in desperate battles. When defending populations, the Order of the White Heart's veteran Celestians are to protect the citizenry inside their structures, Seraphim to cleanse the streets and fields while searching for survivors, whilst the rest of the sisters participate to the battle accordingly. This strategy may be bended at times if the situations require a different approach. The Order is also particularly used to rescue and help the forces of the Imperium in a battle they couldn't win alone, and know very well how to give support to an ally force. Despite their main focus on the preservation of their kin, decisions of the White Heart's head command can still have more aggressive politics like any other order if there is need. For example, launching wars of faith. The same ruthlessness and passion is kept when it comes to seek and condemn heretics. Moreover, while one would believe warriors who merely choose to protect their people and brothers in arms would be of a stoic and gentle personality, the Order is known to actually be particularly aggressive in battle, as wrathful angels coming forth to save and avenge their kin. The Order is led by a Canoness Superior. She takes her seat on the planet of Amora when not leading a crusade of any sort. Being the Canoness Superior, from her is the final word on any and all decisions that require her audience, and is expected to not only deal with the fickle politics of her subsector, but also to be the Order's greatest spiritual and military leader. Directly below her are a couple of lesser Canonesses and Palatines, who each command below them about 5 sanctuaries. Sanctuaries act as bases of operations, and are equal parts cathedral, hospital, and fortress. Each sanctuary is led by a diarchy of a Celestian Superior and of an Almaness Advance. Below them are the squads of Battle Sisters led in the usual manner, and the staff of the Sisters Hospitalier, who are directed as needed by the management system rather than in squads. The armour of each member bears a slight difference with the regular angel pattern, as it displays a thick plate on the chest reminding of the Order's heraldry to symbolise their protective essence. Some detachments prefer to use a more traditional and older set from the early days of the Order, including a hat and cloak. A strong armoured skirt is also generally worn by most revered Celestians. Their armours have a dark decoloured metal with bronze trim, and sometimes white bards. Their robes are essentially blue and white. The sacred banner of the Order generally represents Patricia Fuente giving a brutal punch, lightened by a bright aura of purity coming from her body and especially the fist giving the strike, symbolising the decisive hour when Patricia finished off with her bare hands the Chaos Warlord threatening to break through the limits of the Imperium. Their forces rely on a significant amount of highly experienced veteran combatants, being Celestians or Seraphim. Dominions are numerous as well as known for their heroic brutality. Chimera transports are used, but these are mostly used to deliver supplies and protect convoys. The Order also has a proud tradition of sparring, and most, if not all of its sisters, are expected to be highly deadly in close quarters despite their station. Surprisingly enough, Sisters Repentia are quite few, despite the fact that the White Heart originates from the Order of the Valorous Heart, known for their highly disproportionate amount of these condemned sisters. due to their will to seek atonement at the slightest sign of sin. The explanation is that while the influence of the Valorous Hearts culture has essentially disappeared, becoming a Repentir within the Order of the White Heart would demand to have done an act so exclusively more disgraceful than the vanilla reasons to become one, and the Repentir in question would go through an even more insane experience than what the others would usually reserve for them when none is expected to come back to the ranks of the regular sisters alive. And if they do, they will not be acclaimed by their fellow sisters like ex-Repentir usually are, but will still remain marked as shameful and be refused their entrance in any battlefield for the rest of their life, hitting directly retirement. The Order currently is at its mightiest ever and numbers over 1,000 sisters, although not including service staff such as servicemen and women, ship crewmen and the like, spread out around sanctuaries and some manning transports offering aid to those shipborne who might require their services. This number, however, is merely a peak that is feared and soon drastically reduced, as the Order seems to have entered an era of particularly bloody conflicts in this millennium's end.